Awesome. All right, we'll get started. Well, first of all, we really appreciate your time in joining us today to talk about summer school with Lego Education. And today we're specifically going to be talking about building a better summer for pre-K and K. And of course, we know, well, let me back up. We've already introduced some of our team. Again, I'm Allison. We have Kim on the phone on the webinar today. We have Lauren on the webinar today. We have Dr. Caitlin on the webinar. We also have Carrie on our team, and she covers El Paso and the surrounding districts. Feel free to make a note of any of our email addresses. We will make sure we connect you with the right person if you're not familiar with who you work with Lego Education. So again, just a huge welcome from me and from all of us on our Texas team here at Lego Ed. So as I was starting to say, you all know that TEA requires Texas districts to provide summer programming for emergent bilingual students entering kindergarten and first grade. So this is a state-funded initiative. I know many of you have been doing this program for many years and you kind of have a thing that you do each summer, but I also know that you're always looking and considering new resources to make this summer programming for those pre-K and K students who are moving up to their next grade level engaging and fun, as well as a time where they can come and practice their social emotional skills and hopefully not experience any summer learning loss while they're out of full-time school. So let's hear from some of our students about what they would like to do in summer school.
This is a public student announcement.
We need to talk about play. It can help us learn science, coding, whatever. Play is basically our superpowers.
I can use these. To teach us all, you gotta use play.
Rebuild the world.
So you heard it straight from the students.
This is a public student announcement.
What they want to do is play. And wouldn't we all just want to do play in the summer? That is what we think about when we think about summer school. However, we also know that play needs to have a purpose. And I want to talk to you a little bit about some research behind hands-on learning as well as purposeful play. So hands-on learning at Lego Education, we talk about learning is both hands-on and minds-on. And so when we are learning with our hands, we are increasing brain activation related to agency, decision-making, and flow. And decision-making is important, and we want even our very youngest students to be practicing making good decisions. Learning with our hands-on and minds-on also enhances memory encoding and retrieval processes that support learning. So we are helping them learn how to recall information quickly when they're doing hands-on learning. And then finally, one thing I want to point out, there's tons and tons of research about this, but just one other thing we want to point out is that the hands-on learning allows the brain to exercise the networks responsible for executive control skills. One of these being the ability to tune out some distractions. And so we want our students to be able to work on something independently, not be distracted by other things that are going on around them, which is not only going to benefit them in summer school, but it's going to benefit them throughout their lifelong learning. In addition, some characteristics of playful learning or purposeful play here at Lego Education are that learning should be joyful, it should be actively engaging, socially interactive, iterative, and we're going to talk about that more in a few minutes, as well as meaningful. So kids naturally want to play, but that instinct is actually the right instinct. And so at Lego Education, we are bringing you purposeful play, joyful play, socially interactive play that you can incorporate into your summer school learning for those pre-K and K students. Now, before we talk about any of our specific solutions and how they support your youngest learners, I just want to remind you that all of the Lego education solutions include 4 components. So this is different from a Lego box of bricks that you would buy down at our retail store. These are geared for classroom use. They include curriculum, which are pre-made lessons suitable for use in your classroom. They include all of the materials that you're going to need. So all of our kits come boxed up with all of the bricks and all of the pieces that you'll need to build the project successfully. One note about that, there is no licensing with our products and there's nothing consumable. So once you purchase these Lego education kits, there's nothing for you to buy year over year, which really makes what we offer to you an excellent value. The third component is online support. So we have online resources that the teacher can use to review the lesson plans, look at connections to the lesson plan, print out the observation checklist that we're going to look at, as well as some other items, such as some of the modeling cards. So we have that online support for the teacher, the materials that the students will manipulate, and the pre-made curriculum. And then finally, we have professional development options. We always encourage everyone who purchases our kits to engage with our professional development team. You can do that through a full day of paid professional development with one of our Lego certified trainers. You can also do that in a virtual format, much as we're doing right now, where you would still have a live trainer on the Zoom or the webinar with you. And then your teachers would be grouped together in a room learning with their materials. So we just always want to encourage that when you buy the physical materials, you also purchase the training option that fits your budget and your time schedule best so that you can really maximize what you've purchased with your students. So why would you want to add Lego education to student learning? Well, first of all, you want to engage every single child. When those students come in the summer, we want to make sure that they can participate with every single thing that's going on. So we don't want there to be any barriers due to language or skill proficiency. Now, in the emergent bilingual classes, most of the time, some schools have them in an English only for part of the day, Spanish only for part of the day. Some of them are only in English the duration of the summer school or only in Spanish during the summer school. So however you organize your pre-K summer school, there are no language barriers to using the Lego education kits. They also don't have to have achieved any certain level of proficiency with reading or with writing. So we're going to look at some specific examples of exactly how that's going to play out. The second reason to add Lego education to summer learning is that you have pre-made lessons that are aligned to the Texas Pre-K guidelines as well as the kindergarten TEKS. So not only do we offer you the pre-made curriculum, but we offer you curriculum that is aligned to what you are expected to do in your classrooms. So we feel like those alignments are going to make these resources even of greater value to you as you go through your summer program. And then finally, you're not just using the Lego education kits as a center. You're not just using them like for a brain break. You actually can use these to reinforce content or for students to be able to demonstrate things that they have learned, as well as work on their social emotional skills through purposeful play. So let's look at some specific examples of each of these points. When we talk about engaging every child, I want to tell you a little bit about the kits that we have to offer you. The first 2 kits that you see here on the screen, one's called STEAM Park and the other is called Coding Express. Both of these are created to line up more with technology, science, design concepts, and engineering practices. And these kits, as you can see from the pictures, are made from our larger Duplo bricks. Now, we use the Duplo bricks with our early learning kits because they are easier for the students to manipulate. They are developmentally appropriate for the pre-K fine motor skills. They're also safer. The students can't swallow them. They can't put them up your nose. If you've ever taught pre-K 3s and 4s and 5s, you know exactly what I'm talking about, or have had children that age in your home. The other thing is, you can see these examples on the screen. These come with these wordless cards. Now, the cards can be directly instructional, meaning that the students can build exactly what they see on the card and make a replica of that scene using the pieces from the kit, or they can use those cards as inspiration cards and simply get ideas from those cards and build something similar. So these wordless cards are an example of what I was referring to when I said that there are no language barriers and there's no reading or writing that's required in order to access the kits. And finally, they're going to have a lot of fun creating multiple iterations of their builds. In our standardized testing environment, we have unintentionally kind of given students the idea that there's only one right answer, or there's only one right way to do something. And we all know that really that's not true. There are a lot of right ways to solve a problem, and there are a lot of right ways to approach a solution and collaborate with friends and teammates. So part of the fun of these kits is that it's not intended for them to just build one thing and set it to the side and check it off and teacher, I'm ready to do something else. We want them to modify and change and add something and take something away and really create multiple iterations of all the different projects that they do. The next two kits that I want to share with you, Storytales and Tech Machines. Storytales is created to line up more with the ELAR. So it has, again, these backdrop seasonal inspiration cards, and students can build a scene in front of it. Students don't have to use these cards at all. They can also build characters, they can build settings, they can build new or different endings to the stories that they're reading as part of their summer school from maybe their literacy unit. And then we also have the Tech Machines. And the Tech Machines are really fun. I always think of this as like the Lego version of the Tonka trucks that my son used to play with. So again, this is about building, designing, getting more into those engineering practices. These two kits, once again, they're made from the Duplo bricks, so they're easy for the kids to manipulate. They both come with the wordless cards, and they both provide opportunities for having a lot of fun and doing multiple iterations of the builds. And then finally, I want to show you what we call our booster sets. And these are sets that interact with any of the other sets that I've shown you so far. We have letters, which is a wonderful set if you want to work on some language as part of your pre-K summer school. These can supplement whatever you're already doing for literacy. They can also be a supplement to the story tales. And then we have kits of additional people and additional animals. And these will just enhance and allow them to be more robust when they're incorporating people and animals into the different scenes that they build. Couple things I want to point out. Again, this is for safety and for developmental appropriateness for these pre-K kits. The people in the early learning kits come pre-built all in one piece. So you've probably seen in our regular size, smaller Lego kits that the people, the hair comes off, the head comes off, you can take the feet off and all of that. We create these early learning people minifigs all in one piece for safety reasons. And there's a wide variety of people in the people set. Animals, same thing. The animals are all one piece just again for safety, so there aren't small pieces of these different animals that you can take off, and that would be choking hazards or anything like that. And you'll see, once again, all of these come with those wordless cards, so they can build what they see, or they can use those for inspiration. Let's see some examples of our pre-K kids in action in the classroom. All right, that video to me it makes me want to go teach preschool. It makes me want to just play all afternoon. But I know that in addition to how great the resources may be with the students, that it is your responsibility to make sure that any resource you purchase lines up with standards, as well as acts as an instructional vehicle to reinforce content. So I just want to talk to you about that as well. So let's dive into some pre-made lessons and how they align to your Texas standards. As a follow-up to our meeting today, the appropriate person assigned to your account, we're going to send you some links. So we're not going to go through the entirety of any of these correlation documents, but I just want to show you a couple of examples. So when we talk about the Texas pre-K guidelines for pre-K 3 and pre-K 4, I just pulled out one of the guiding principles just as one beginning example. And guiding principle 7 talks about the fact that effective teaching practices are intentional. They're built on children's intrinsic strengths and interests, and they provide developmentally appropriate instruction that incorporates many opportunities for interactive experiences, exploration, meaningful play, and problem solving. So when you get the Lego kit for early learning, whichever one you choose or whichever combinations work for you, you're being intentional. And I don't know about you, but I've never set Lego bricks in front of a kid and have them not know what to do. They intrinsically and immediately know to pick some of those up. They start playing with them. They look and see how they fit together. So kids are interested in this. It builds on their strengths. And as you saw in the video, there are lots of opportunities for them to interact with each other. They're exploring, they're trying different things, they're problem solving, and they're having some meaningful play. When we move on to the kindergarten TEKS, and this is a page over here on the right of our actual correlation document, when you pull up the lesson in the teacher online resources, and the one I have here is moving on water, you can look at your document and say, okay, if I'm going to do the moving on water, what are some of the standards that I'm going to be really keying in on through this lesson? And you can see here that one of the standards is listening actively and asking questions to understand information and answering questions using multi-word responses. So if you choose the STEAM Part Kit and you're doing the lesson Moving on Water, you're really working on oral language, you're working on comprehension, you're working on questioning, and you're working on formulating multi-word responses. So there you can have a really rich experience with your standards and with that instruction while you're also playing, or the kids will feel like they are playing, doing this lesson about moving on water. Another thing to point out is, in addition to the main meat of the lesson, we always have connection activities. So once the students have completed the build for Moving on Water, they can do this connection activity where they're going to do a game called Sink or Float. So they'll go around your classroom and they will gather some items, and then they'll either put them in the sink pile or they'll put them on the float pile. You can get a container of water. You can see if their predictions were correct. Then they can go back and look at the elements in that STEAM Park set and select things they think will float, test them, see if their prediction was correct, and so on. So you have the lesson, and then you always have these connection activities as well. And then just as you have in your core program, the observation tools to gather formative data, we at LEGO Education can provide those as well. So you can see here, you can observe the students while they are working with those early learning kits and see if you have not observed, they're sometimes doing it or they're doing it most of the time, whichever of the skill that you're looking at. In addition to the lessons being aligned with the standards, you can also use these lessons to reinforce some of the content that's being presented through your summer school program, as well as work on social emotional skills. So I've pulled up here an example of how you can reinforce science. In that Moving on Water lesson, there's a part of the lesson called the science behind the play. And we're learning words such as buoyant and density and what those words mean and how those play out when we do those tests with the water. If you choose a different kit, such as our Coding Express, which you saw in the video, they were playing with the train on the train track, and you can code the train with the plastic plates to have the sound go off, make the train noise, sound like it's going over water, stop, start, reverse, all of those things. You can do a math distance activity with the train and the train track. And this yellow card here is an example of an online resource that you could print out and use as part of the lesson. So we're doing some math when we do the Coding Express with the train. When we are using the Storytell set, as I mentioned to you, it ties in with ELAR. You can use that set to build characters. You can use it to create scenes and setting. You can use it to do a different ending to a particular story. And then finally, really, we have some lessons that intentionally work on social emotional development. So in these two lessons with Coding Express, while yes, you're working on some computer science activities such as looping and the Y-shaped trust and doing conditional statements, you also are collaborating and having conversation and talking and using your executive function and doing all of those social and emotional skills. Likewise, with tech machines, one of the projects is to build a park. So you first choose some of the minifigs and you talk about how these are children who don't have a place to play. And your students can talk to each other. What would that be like if we didn't have a playground at school to play on? And then the project is for them to collaborate and create a park using their tech machine pieces. So those were just a few examples of not only how the lessons align to standards, but also how the lessons help you reinforce some of the core content that they are learning in summer school. So again, some of the great reasons to add the Lego Education Early Learning Kits to your summer learning program is you will be able to successfully engage every child. We do have those pre-made lessons and alignments for you, and you'll be able to reinforce content and also help kids practice their social emotional skills throughout the summer. Just quick reminder again, everything that we've shown you, all of those kits come with the curriculum lessons. All of the kits include all of the different Lego bricks that you need. All of them have the online support, which is the lessons, and we'll send you those alignments. And then don't forget, you can always add on a professional development option to train your teachers up and get the most out of what you've purchased with the kits. Again, all of us on the Texas team are glad to help you. You can jot any of our email addresses down. If you're not sure which person to get to, we will get you to the right account manager, and we can follow up with you today. And thank you very much. I'm going to stop there and just see what questions you might have. And as a next step, we just want to follow up with you and see how we can work with you to create a wonderful summer solution. So any questions in the chat? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see those. All right, I see some questions in there about applying to TEA. This is not something that you need to apply for as a grant. It is, if you go to your purchasing department, or if you go to the assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction in your district, they are going to know how for you to get the funding for the bilingual pre-K and pre-K and K program. This is not really something that's new in Texas, and it's not something like that a teacher would have to apply for the grant for. So work with your curriculum assistant superintendent, work with your bilingual director. So that's what you need. I see a question, what technology is needed for the coding kits? For the Coding Express kit for early learning, the train has a battery, so you would need some batteries. But besides that, the coding happens when you put the plastic plate on the track. So there is not like anything additional that students would need. Like they're not using a computer necessarily to do any of these activities. It's really about the hands-on learning and about them building. Any other questions that we can answer for you? And team, if I misspeak or forget something, please jump in.
Allison, the one other thing I would add with respect to the question about the coding kits, Joyce, Allison, everything Allison said about Coding Express was spot on. If you are interested in the coding solutions for elementary or middle school, those would be Spike Essential and Spike Prime. I dropped a link in the chat for the system requirements associated with that technology. In general, and I don't want to make blanket statements, but in general, most tablet or laptop devices would be compatible. We have both an app version that is downloadable as well as a browser version that you can access on the web. So I've dropped the system requirements for the app in the chat, but if you need any more specifications, you can just let us know.
And just to clarify, those kits would not be appropriate for pre-K and kindergarten. The Spike Essential really starts at grade 1, and the Spike Prime starts at maybe grade 4 or 5 and goes up through middle school. So those kits would not be for pre-K-K, but certainly starting grade 1 for summer school.
And you are spot on, Allison, and I apologize that I
that's okay.
I was jumping ahead to next week.
Yeah.
Which actually is a plug for next week, if anyone is interested.
It is. Next week is our webinar series about K through 5 summer school. And Dr. Boleen is going to be leading those. So please come back and join us if you want to learn more about the first grade, second grade, up to 5th grade options. I see
you don't want to miss it.
That's right.
Sorry, I was going to say, you don't want to miss it. It's going to be a good one, just like Allison. So if you have the time and availability, we would love to see you back here next week.
Absolutely. I see a question in the chat. Is there a Lego program that is compatible with a 3D printer that STEM schools use? And Lauren, Kim, Caitlin, do you all have any suggestion for that off the top of your head?
That is not something that I have any experience or familiarity with. In terms of compatibility with other devices, again, this would be for the older students, not for the pre-K, but for the older students, some of our sets are compatible with Raspberry Pi. That is the only third-party technology that I have familiarity with in terms of compatibility. I'm not familiar with anything that connects to a 3D printer.
I would say the same thing. I'm also thinking, if you have a 3D printer on your site, how cool. How can we make that work with a Lego lesson? So for example, if you are prototyping or thinking about something that you want to build out of the Lego bricks, perhaps you have an idea for a robot that you want to build. Maybe students are first kind of imagining that and then building it with a 3D printer, having that model in front of them. Now they're taking the Lego bricks, they're building it. Again, we have lessons that support all this, but once they get those foundational lessons, what's not to say the whole point is to be able to come up with original builds. So maybe I'm taking that 3D print that I just made and I have that in front of me as my model as we're iterating and thinking through what that robot or build is going to look like. And what I can say is that if that's something that's really important to your site, my job in collaboration with the account manager would be to support you with that. I don't want to, make promises that we could create like modules and modules that are aligned to 3D printing, but we have a vested interest always in supporting you with your site needs. So that's something that we could definitely explore together, and I can definitely work with your site to explore more options. But super jealous, sounds fun.
Thank you. Those are some really great ideas, Caitlin. There is a question in the chat I want to make sure that everyone hears. Is there a recommended number of students per kit? So yes. So for the early learning kits, we recommend 4 students per kit. Now, if you want to use this in a whole group setting where the students are all building the same thing at the same time, you can just set up different tables with the kits and have 4 kids go to each table and everybody can do it together. That would be like the whole class model for using our kits. Or you could do a center where just those 4 students would work with that one kit while the other kids were doing other things. So you can use either implementation model, but either way, you would not want more than 4 kids using one early learning kit at one time.
And the only caveat, the only caveat I would add to that, Allison is 110% correct. I do know that there are some early learning educators. I was a first grade teacher who are adamant that they only want students in pairs at a center or a station. My argument would be you could have 2 pairs at the same time at that station, but you still have some educators that would say, nope, we only do pairs. If that were the case, you could certainly have any number of our solutions at a station or a center in your rotation, and 2 students could participate. We definitely suggest 4, and we definitely do not suggest over 4, simply so that students are able to get the most out of using that solution, and you're not diluting the experience they can have because they're having to interact with so many kids and share the bricks amongst them. So 4 is the sweet spot, but if you're thinking, well, I don't know because my teachers really want 2 in a center or a station, that can work, but normally you would want 4. I just know that the early learning space is I have the biggest heart for them and they know their stuff and they're not always willing to to change or to be flexible because they're, you know, they're practitioners. So wanted to add that.
Thank you. Kim, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
The only thing that I'll add is I would recommend for any of our participants to reach out to any one of us LEGO Education account managers, because I imagine that each one of you probably have a different vision for your plan for implementation, and we can certainly partner with you to help think about what implementation considerations would best align to your needs.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I am so appreciative of your time today. And as Kim said, really our next step is we want to connect with you and we want to learn more about how we can help you with any of these solutions or a combination of these solutions in your pre-K and K summer school. So we'll also be following up with you individually. So if you registered and you've joined today, we do have your email so we can connect with you as well. If there are no other questions, we're going to give you some of your time back this afternoon and go ahead and close out our webinar. And as Caitlin and Lauren said, we are continuing our Texas Summer Webinar Series next week. Caitlin will be leading and we're going to talk about how to use our LEGO education sets in that traditional K-5 summer school setting. And then our third week, Lauren is going to be leading, and we're going to talk about really just the fun things we do in the summer, which is the enrichment camps, STEM camps, all the things we do pre-K to grade 8, and how LEGO education can fit in to those STEM camps or enrichment camp environments. So if nobody has anything else, we'll go ahead and sign off for today. And we thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Stay warm, Texas. Stay warm.